Who would you say are some of the most tragic villains in the show's history? And we're in the show, of course. So villains who you found really tragic and felt bad for any number of reasons. Firstly, I say Hunter Owen at number one. Actually, let's just pull up the Reddit. There you go. You can see it. You can read along with me.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea, right? Because the way soaps work, characters can have more than one arc, as opposed to a TV show, unless it's long running or it's a constant moving forward pace. Usually characters go, if it's like a one series show, they have their story arc and it's done. It's done. Usually the villain's like, all right, he's this villain, he's just a villain, he's evil. But like the way soaps work, some villains inevitably turn back into being actually like normal people, in a sense. Like, I mean, you talked about him recently, Stuart Highway, big villain, major villain, ended up being quite nice and a part like this weird, like a weird duo with him and Rainey. Like the way that characters can go trajectory wise is it's a very interesting way how they can change through time. Like, oh god, who else? Some big examples of villains that started off quite nice. I mean, even Reese's trajectory, not tragic, but the trajectory of Reese from awkward, weirdo to murderer. It's just a bit of a. It's just the trajectories can be strange, but like tragic villains as well. I mean, if I go for major villain number one, who's surprisingly tragic, is Stella. I don't remember her last name. The one who was married to Phil, who started abusing Ben, because it's such a weird one. Also, I've got a dark horse pick that only about 3 people are going to get, but it is my channel, or it's our channel. I'm going to grandstand about everything. Stella, who got married to Phil, started abusing Ben. She's like this mousy, soft-spoken, like, woman who gets with Phil Mitchell, of all people. Phil Mitchell, who, kind of has a type of fiery women who will set everything straight and scream at him. Then he goes for Stella, who's this really timid, shy, awkward woman who, then when Phil isn't really reciprocating with Stella, she takes it out on Ben. And then unleashed the whole tirade of abuse towards Ben. But, like, then you even get hints where, like, I genuinely think this was with Stella, where her parents, she was somehow involved in her sister dying. And her parents just basically, they don't act like she's there anymore. Like, they go and see Stella's parents, and they're the most cold, standoffish. You're here because you're getting married. I hate your guts. And it's like, whoa, Jesus Christ. And then even her final line is something like "Catch me, Daddy," as she like goes off the roof, and it's like, what? What brings you to the point where you are abusing a 10-year-old boy in a fictional EastEnders world? What brings you to that point where you need to take power over a child who's getting in the way of your relationship? And like Phil never loved her anyways. Phil picked Stella because she seemed like she would be a good mum to Ben. Little did he know. Like, oh, it's such a. I've even talked myself around. To me, she sounds really sympathetic. Obviously, her actions are awful, but I feel bad for her, man. I've been done in by my own words.
I don't really. I gotta be honest. I'm just sat here. I don't really have one because I haven't really watched this show. So I just gonna nod and agree and read the Reddit if that's all right with everyone.
Yeah, I'll slot back in with another one.
Obviously, from what I've seen of Stella, I just think of Ben. I forget what the actor is called. What was his name? I just think of the young
Charlie Jones.
Charlie Jones. I just think of Charlie Jones as Ben Mitchell playing the DS when he's a child. Because I don't know why that always sticks out to me. It's just him playing the DS with his sister beside him. Just funny in my eyes. But yeah, Hunter Owen, a troubled teen who was forced to kill his psycho stepdad who was strangling his mother to death. To be honest, Jack turning him in and him getting 15 years in prison for this was honestly awful. He had every right to escape from prison given that he shouldn't have been locked up in the first place. The show trying to make him into a villain after this just rubbed me the wrong way given that he was just a kid who was forced to do something to literally save his mother's life. He's still alive,
Hunter was strange. He is still alive. No, he got shot.
Oh.
He got shot by like it was when he held the Queen Vic hostage, and then he got shot by like armed officers. Hunter was a strange one, because it's not wrong. He did step in and shoot Ray Kelly, who was strangling his mum Mel, but like him shooting him, it was like he became a gun pervert essentially. He's like, oh, all this power. Yeah, and he just became like a bad boy after that. He just became a villain after that. It's like it was self-defense. It was self-defense, and now he's all horny over guns and killing people. He's not a bad kid, but obviously it was them trying to tap into like being like Steve Owen's son. But like he wasn't a bad guy necessarily either. He just did some like bad. He just kind of ended up doing some bad things, like hitting Saskia over the head with an ashtray. So, ashtray. But it's just it was kind of tragic, and then he gets shot, and it's just, yeah. I swear he got shot. He did get shot. My second one, and we're late enough in the video that no one's gonna pay attention. I think, to me, and this is a very selective me take, so don't take this as gospel. One of the most tragic villains to me is the stalker Sarah Cairns who stalked Martin back in like 2003. Yeah, I've mentioned it. Unsurprisingly, Sonia and Martin have been mentioned, and Sarah, like, honestly, it's I feel I'm embarrassed talking about it. It's a really good storyline. It's like a 1 month really good storyline where on a night out, Martin, I think he's on a stag do or he's just on a party with the lads, like Mickey Miller's there. And he gets chatting to a waitress called Sarah, and he obviously gets really sloshy. He's probably spending most of the time with Sonia. Like most of the time talking about Sonia, and this is like early Martin as well. This is baby James Alexandru Martin, and he wakes up in a bed, and he's just kind of like, oh shit, do we sleep together? And I don't think it's explicitly mentioned. He just starts to assume, and slowly you start to realize that Sarah has really gotten interested in Martin because he's not treating her like a piece of meat, because he's actually genuine and caring, and it just pains the thing that she'd seemingly had just a life racked with terrible men who would just use her and just not care for her at all. And like in the end, she does stab Martin, so it does escalate. She does start trying to ruin his life fundamentally. And I think she does push Pauline off a ladder. But you just get this and she does genuinely start to lose her mind. And I don't know. I really sympathise with the character. Even she did stalk Martin and make his life a misery for like a month, and she did stab him in the end, trying to stab Sonia. But like, she had to have been really, really messed up internally to do the things she did. And that's a character I'd always love to see come back in some way. But obviously not stalking Martin again. But just
Sonia this time.
I don't know. It's just she was so tragic. She was so unbelievably tragic, and like she just lives such a shit life that the second a man just like even like opens a door for her, she's like, oh my god, I love you. Oh my, please don't leave me. Oh god. Yeah, Stalker Sarah Cairns. If you don't know what it is, it's kind of on YouTube. There are some bits cut out. I've got the file. I downloaded it all. That's archived.
Ronnie, tragic life from the beginning to end. To be honest, I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory, so I don't really need to go into it. Lol. Number 3, Chrissy Watts suffered a poor relationship with Den for years, as she kept taking him back despite his crummy behaviour. And when she did finally try and end things for good and get a well-deserved payback, she ends up having to get him to save herself, and panics and does whatever she can to avoid going down for it. Of course, in the end, failed. But to be honest, I'm glad she came back recently, and Jake finally got a happy ending together. As for her ending up in prison and Jake seemingly being killed by Chinese men, obviously it's like such a downer to me over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one with Chrissy because, it's just Den Watts is Den Watts. He burns everything he's involved in. Is the problem. So, like, it's just at the end of the day, it's like she was always on the bad end of Den, and yeah, sure, she was described as like being a match, but still, she still had to deal with being married to Den, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
like no one really makes that out like safely other than Den Watts.
I'll read some comments here. Danny Moon, not even sure why she saw his fella. Is it supposed to be Danny or no?
Danny Moon.
Not even sure why.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's Danny Moon that Chrissy like got with when she left prison.
He reminds me of a well-meaning dog who barks at the door thinking he's protecting the house. In reality, he's just causing more trouble than anything. He's always looking at Jack and Johnny for reassurance. Like, did I do good? To be fair, I think he was mentally disturbed. Am I allowed to read that? It's the first comment. It's on screen.
I'm lost.
It's the very first.
Just read it.
Alright, fine. To be fair, I think he was mentally disabled and thus didn't fully understand his actions she carried out for Johnny Allen, so you could say tragic in that sense. I just didn't know if I could include the mentally disabled bit, but I got a bit scared there. Ben, him abusing Louise was a cry for help. Phil comes in and punches him, and Phil then forces him into boxing and fighting back, which led to him always murdering Jordan. He comes back and murders Heather, and lost his boyfriend, I can say that word for 12 minutes in, raped, and is now in prison in America. In real life, he'd be being the perfect creator on Prime UK TikTok. Like, what's that? What the bloody hell is that fucking guy called? Never mind. He'd have it used as an escape whilst drinking and doing drugs as an escape. Would have loads of embarrassing videos on TikTok forever. Who's that? Paul Greach, guy who dances to the green grass. Who's also on just think of him. Don't ask me why. Mad May, right, and Stella Crawford. Stella was definitely abused as a child.
Fair enough. I did. I mean, yeah, Mad May as well. She was because Dawn and I don't remember who she was with. They were just kind of on and off constantly, but so much so that she could never, like, the way it worked is May always wanted a baby, right? She was the woman who put all the gas on and lit a cigarette in the house, and it exploded. She always wanted a baby, and her boyfriend were always trying to conceive a baby. But the second that he sleeps with not Tina, I'm getting bloody. Why am I saying Coronation Street names? The second he sleeps with Dawn, suddenly Dawn's pregnant, and it's like, and so she just gets more desperate to have this baby. But they want Rob, who is the guy's name. Rob ends up falling for Dawn in general. And then she was like, yeah, we're gonna raise this baby as our own. It's gonna be our baby. Finally, gonna get the baby that we've always wanted. And then Dawn like keeps the baby anyways, and May tries to kidnap the child, and like she was just constantly toed and throwed of just messy situation, desperately wanting to have a baby, not being able to have one, and it's she is kind of tragic in a way.
Yeah.
But the exit was cool, and some of her scenes are pretty great.
Yeah.
I obviously went through Stella before.
Yeah. A controversial one with Stephen Beale, rejected by 3 parents, caught in the middle of Cindy and Ian's feud for 9 years. Having his mum's last word on Beale. Not to trust his dad, who he eventually realised later down the line weren't even his dad, catching Ian and Janine's affair in 2002, and being forced to tell Laura, which caused more drama. Then when he finally thinks he's found a home in New Zealand, Simon rejects him, same way he did in 92. Basically, if you want to run down Stephen's traumatic childhood and the mentality he had whilst growing up, just watch the 12th of October 2007, the failed on YouTube. Even during his later run, things finally seemed to go good for him until that daunting year of 2017, which he was caught up between 3 of the Browns in Max's villain arc. People say he treated Lauren poorly, but I feel like that only started in 2017 when she began seeing Josh again and again and again. She even witnessed was out of order, plus she had an abortion behind his back and planned to never tell him. I mean, if you watch the 2 of them in 2016, you see how happy they were at first. Even though I'm a Peter and Lauren supporter, the brain tumour thing was a bit extreme, but it is important.
He did fake cancer. Lauren, you can't leave me. I've got cancer. Like, oh, do you? No. That's a 4.
But it is important to remember that he had just been about to have his girlfriend fly off away from him without telling anyone, and that he had psychological issues in the past. Oh, and don't even get me started on Abby, constantly in his ear from the beginning, and tell him that being a psycho was just who he was and he should embrace it. That phrase basically describes Abby as a whole, to be fair. What is sad is that Stephen was actually trying to be a good person in the end, standing up to Max, who wanted Jane dead. Also notable that his last words were about him wanting to be a better person. Shame now not even his own mother mentioned him, who he mourned for years. I honestly think Cindy's death affected him most.
Yeah, no, that's genuinely a really fantastic little bit of writing about Stephen. It definitely puts it into perspective. It was yeah. I mean, also the extra tragedy of just him being killed off, which he definitely didn't need to do. Like, I get that Max was in his villain arc, and this was like, oh, Max is a bad boy. He's taking revenge on everyone who set him up. And it's like, yeah, but Stephen wasn't really. He was just collateral damage. And still, it's kind of like the Beales have been. It's not like Ian's having more kids. These are all we got in terms of Beales. So now there's only 2 left. It's a bit like, at least if there were more of them, it would be fine. But they do love to discard a Beale family member. So, yeah.
Peter, you're next.
Fair enough.
I think this is where
Peter's safe.
I think this is where we end the video.
Yeah.
Just lovely on Stephen Beale. What was the original poster called? Because I've got to show them out. Foreign Choice 7369. So yeah, thank you for watching. We'll see.
Alternatively, just to throw to the viewers, who are the characters, the villains you loved, in a sense, but also villains that was so messed up you felt bad for them? That's the real conversation. Tell us in the comments section. And go ahead and watch the Stalker Sarah Cairns storyline, please.
Editor, cut that out.